Hi, welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. This is Marvin speaking. I come across a brilliant video by someone who analyses true crime. And the title is, What's Joshua Ribe Hiding in His Statement About Sudisha Konaki? Let's get straight into this, question mark. This is by Never a True Word.
The last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. That's the words of Joshua Riibe talking to the police about missing woman Sudisha Konaki. It's a mystery that has got a lot of people talking, but is there the truth inside Joshua's words? Well, let me tell you, there is so much in this guy's statement, and lots of it very revealing. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Looking at what is said using my statement investigation process, which anyone can learn to give themselves an advantage in understanding the people all around them just from what they say, because what I do here is strip away everything apart from the words that are said, because inside these words, that's the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the motivations of people, as we will see when we go through Joshua's statement. Now, at the time of recording, Sudisha is missing, presumed drowned. She was visiting the Dominican Republic. The last person to see her alive was Joshua. His statement, or at least part of it, was leaked. Now, there are some people saying this guy is innocent. What is going on here? And other people are saying this all smells slightly suspicious. So what can we tell by studying the words of his statement? Before I begin, just a little warning for you. This statement was leaked, so I can't check its veracity. And also, I don't know if he said more than is in this statement here. But with that in mind, let's look into the statement inside the words of Joshua Riibe. And I'll read you the full statement first of all. He says, "We were in waist-deep water. We talked and kissed a bit. A big wave came and hit us both. And when the water returned, it swept us out to sea. As soon as we were able to surface, we tried to call for help. I was getting tired. I realised she was getting tired of swimming too. I've been a lifeguard. I grabbed her and pulled her out. I held her under my arm and swam to get her out of the water. When I finally reached the ground on the beach, I held her in front of me. She wasn't out of the water. She was knee-deep and walking at an angle out of the water. The last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water I had swallowed."
Meet GoDaddy Aero, our AI-powered experience that'll take your business idea online in minutes.
After vomiting, I looked around. I didn't see anyone. I thought she had grabbed her things and left. Then I woke up because of the sun and because mosquitoes were biting me. I went to my friend's room to get my phone and went back to my room to sleep. So that's it. 3-paragraph statement. I want to start with some things in this statement that are reassuring me here. Number one is the composition of the statement. You can see that in the first paragraph, very quickly, after 2 sentences, he mentions the event. He says, "We were in waist-deep water. We talked and kissed a bit. A big wave came and hit us both." Now, with deceptive people, people who are storytelling or lying, they may spend a lot of time on the setup, describing the scene and setting all out for what was going on. Why? Because that's the easy stuff to talk about. Because if you go and tell a lie, that's a hard thing to talk about. That's very stressful. So often when people are telling deceptive stories, they stay with the setup for a long time and delay getting to the action for quite a bit. But here we get to the action very, very quickly. A big wave came and hit us both. The other thing is, in all of that statement that I've just read through, it's all in past tense. Another tell for someone making up a deceptive story is the tenses don't quite hang together. That we expect to hear past events told in past tense, exactly as happens in this statement, but sometimes a liar will slip into present tense when they're telling a story because they're making it up and in the present time in their head, and we've got none of that there. So composition is good, and also the tense is good in this statement. However, it is full. It is absolutely full of things for us to have a look at. The first thing I want to have a look at is pronouns. You can see that he starts this using joint pronouns, and exclusively joint pronouns at the start. So, we were in waist-deep water. We talked and kissed a bit. A big wave came and hit us both. And when the water returned, it swept us out to sea. As soon as we were able to surface, we tried to call for help. Those are all joint pronouns. And those are the last joint pronouns that we will see in this statement. There is like a big divide after we tried to call for help. There is a big, massive divide. And what we end up getting is singular pronouns here, because the statement continues, and I'll go through all of it and you will not see. And
One of the weird things is that a private detective said that day there was basically no sort of tidal waves, and the water was very, very calm. So how can she be swept out to sea? But I will put that video up as well. But that was from a private detective, and it is still kind of strange, this case, because her body has never been found.
another joint pronoun after we tried to call for help. He says, I was getting tired. I realised she was getting tired of swimming too. And it continues on with these singular pronouns. I've been a lifeguard. I grabbed her. So again, this is all single pronouns. We started off with we and us and our. I grabbed her and pulled her out. I held her under my arm and swam to get her out of the water. When I finally reached the ground and out the beach, I held her in front of me. She wasn't out of the water. She was knee deep and walking at an angle out the water. The last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water I had swallowed. So you can see it just continues there with these singular pronouns, and it finishes all with just talking about these single pronouns again. After vomiting, I looked forward. I didn't see anyone. I thought she had grabbed her things and left. And then I woke up because of the sun and because mosquitoes were biting me. I went back to my friend's room to get my phone and then went back to my room to sleep. So everything in there
Is mine.
after that initial part of it where it was all we were in waist deep water. We talked and kissed a bit. A big wave came and hit us both. And when the water returned, it swept us out to sea. As soon as we were able to get to the surface, we tried to call for help. And then it's
One of the first things I remember
in the story that goes
about when his statement actually come out was that he didn't have to remember a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot. So it told me that even though he was pretty hammered and went for his swim and was being sick and then crashed out somewhere, that just doesn't make sense, because he remembered a hell of a lot in what he was saying. And maybe he was a bit scared. Maybe, like I said, he may have blacked out, but it's very, very strange in what he was able to remember, I think, in this case. That's the first thing that got me.
goes on there. What else do I notice in the words? Well, let's look at something else in the overall words, and that is words relating to water, which let's go through them and just look at all the words relating to water in this story. There's a lot of them. We were in waist deep is a word that's got to do with water. Water. We talked and kissed a bit. A big wave came and hit us both, and when the water returned, it swept us out to sea. As soon as we were able to surface, we tried to call for help. I was getting tired. I realised she was getting tired of swimming too. So you see so many words relating to water there. Now you might say that's obvious. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. I have been a lifeguard. There's another water word. I grabbed her and pulled her out. I held her under my arm and swam to get her out of the water. When I finally reached the ground on the beach, I held her in front of me. She wasn't out of the water. She was knee deep and walking at an angle out of the water. The last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water that I had swallowed. So this keeps on going on about water, apart from at that end part of the story. What can I conclude from that? Reliably, water keeps coming up in this story. So I'm sure that whatever happened, whatever the truth is behind all of this, water was at the centre of it. That this did not happen on dry land. Water was, for me, certainly at the centre of this story. Okay, so there we go. We've got past tense, which you find really comforting, suggests some truthfulness. The story composition is not frightened of getting to the big action part of the story. That feels good as well. There is something, though, in the middle of that, with this break where they were doing things together and then they started doing things apart. It was all I and she. Now, listen, That can infer an argument sometimes. When we talk about we's, there was a closeness. When we talk about I and she, and my and her, then there could be an argument. There could be something that has split them up. I will come back to that later. And then also, I'm certain, because of the amount of references to water that are there, I think that water was certainly involved in this story. However, let's go through it word by word now. And I'm going to point out some really interesting, unusual things that I see in these words. So let's go back through the statement. We were in waist deep water. Now, we talked and kissed a bit. Now, this is the only interaction between the two of them inside this story. The rest of the action that's described is an action by him or an action by her, but talking and kissing, something the two of them do together. But this is the last joint interaction between the two of them in this story. So we remember, I said the pronouns change. Well,
it does think to me, basically, that Josh is thinking about what he was saying. He's not stupid, this kid. He really, well, young man, should I say, but he isn't stupid about his statement and what he was thinking about. He must have been thinking about. And a lot of it, I think he was scared. So he didn't want to get into any trouble. I still find it hard that basically he done anything to her. But like I said, you never know. And obviously, what happened in the bar and the two dodgy people, you have to think that there may be third-party intervention there. Because obviously when her friends was coming home, the two guys who looked like the same that were in the bar were going to the beach at quite an odd time. You just don't know.
Well, so does the action description, because this is them talking and kissing there. A big wave came and hit us both, and when the water returned, it swept us out to sea. As soon as we were able to surface, we tried to call for help. Now, as soon as we were able to surface is unexpected in that story, because it's not pointed out inside the story that they went under the water. The water just swept them out to sea, but there's a bit of a gap here. A bit of something not being said inside this retelling of events, in that he doesn't say it took us under, he just says it swept us out to sea. And then he says, as soon as we were able to surface. He then says, we tried to call for help. Now, they've been called out to sea, so what help did they think was there? Apparently this happened quite late at night, or even like really early in the morning. Was there someone else there that they expected to be able to hear them? I don't know, but what I do know is he doesn't say who they were calling to help for. So I'm getting the fact they went underwater, not being accounted for, calling out for help to who. I'm spotting that there's things missing inside this story. The next part is I was getting tired. I realised she was getting tired of swimming too. More of the same here. So I was getting tired. Tired of what? He doesn't say.
This is kind of strange. How far, if this massive wave came in and they ended it up in sort of deep water, how far did they were taken out? It just doesn't make sense to me. If that water was said to be calm that day, why would they be so far out? Something doesn't add up in this case, in what he's saying, especially when it's broken down by this guy.
Well, no, getting tired is something you do maybe when you want to go to bed. You know, that could be getting tired when you just want to sleep, or when you've had enough. I was getting tired. However, she was getting tired of swimming. So he was just getting tired, but she was getting tired of swimming. And then she says too. She was getting tired of swimming too. So he's implying that he was tired of swimming as well, even though he doesn't say it. There's things not starting to hang together inside this story for me. And also that I've mentioned they're doing things apart. He says, I realised she was getting tired of swimming too. So realised is interesting. That means it was his thought process that let him know she was tired of swimming, not an interaction between them. She didn't say, I can't do this anymore. So again, were they apart? Is actually what happened, that this wave swept them out to sea, and they were apart in some way. They were not close together anymore. That could be what happened. By the way, she was getting tired of swimming too, implies they were both swimming, but he doesn't say they tried to swim to the shore at all. Again, and something has appeared that doesn't make sense given the description that we've had. So he didn't say they went underwater, and he didn't say they started swimming to try to get to shore. So there's these gaps here in this story as well. He then says, I have been a lifeguard. Now, this is an interesting statement for me, and I told you just everything in this statement I can pick up and comment on. I've been a lifeguard is factual, but it doesn't really add anything to this story here, because he doesn't say I use my lifeguard skills. That's what's implied there, but that's not what he says. He doesn't say I've been a lifeguard, so I used my teaching or my learning or did what I did in that job. He just...
It seems to think that this would go for him being a lifeguard. So his motto was basically to save her.
Tells us, I have been a lifeguard. Well, what's going on there? This is a potential resume statement that people who have got bad things going on or things that are not very nice that they have to tell will try and make us feel good about them by using a resume statement. Like, I'm a nice guy, or I go to church every Sunday. How could I possibly be a killer? Those are resume statements that people bring up. They don't make a lot of sense.
I agree.
When you break them down logically, but they give this impression that we're dealing with a nice person, an honourable person doing the right thing. Is that why he said, I have been a lifeguard? Right.
Start making money. Well, initiate an automated trading app with just a click. Here you can see the first.
Do not like the next bits very much at all. There's some wording here that's quite active, almost violent. Grabbed her and pulled her out. I held her under my arm, so we've got held her as well. Swam to get her out of the water, and I held her in front of me. So we've got some very active words there, suggesting that she was not doing very much at all here, but he is grabbing and he is pulling and he is holding in there, in those words. So yeah, interesting choice of words there that suggest he was very active doing something and that she wasn't. Again, we've got something else going on where he doesn't explain what he's talking about. I grabbed her and pulled her out. Pulled her out of what? I grabbed her and pulled her out. He doesn't say what he pulled her out of, and I'm finding it quite hard to picture that one, because if someone was in the sea and you pulled them out, then you would be pulling them out of the sea to dry land. However, he pulled her out of what? Because he says we have to swim to get out of the water, so he wasn't just pulling her out of the water. So pulling her out of what? I held her under my arm and swam to get her out of the water. When I finally reached the ground on the beach, I held her in front of me. So this is a strange one to picture as well. I held her in front of me. Interesting. And she wasn't out of the water. Now, interestingly, he's very concerned with getting her out of the water, not him. If you look there, he says, I held her under my arm and swam to get her out of the water. Not to get him out of the water, but to get her out of the water. Why that difference? Well, possibilities going on here is that he wasn't in the water, that she was actually the one that was in a lot of trouble and he wasn't in trouble. Maybe she got swept away and he was shouting or trying to get to her but could not get to her, but he was still at safety. He was still in a good place. It could be that he wants us to think how great he was, that he wasn't looking after himself, he was looking after her. This would go with that lifeguard statement. What a great guy I am. So look, my concern was not myself, Joshua, and getting myself out of the water. My concern was getting her out of the water. We don't know. I can't conclude on that. Under my arm and swam to get her
Just got to go back
out of the water. Not to get him out of the water, but to get her out of the water. Why that difference? Well, possibilities going on here is that he wasn't in the water, that she was actually the one that was in a lot of trouble and he wasn't in trouble. Maybe she got swept away and he was shouting or trying to get to her but could not get to her, but he was still at safety. He was still in a good place. It could be that he wants us to think how great he was, that he wasn't looking after himself, he was looking after her. This would go with that lifeguard statement. What a great guy I am. So look, my concern was not myself, Joshua, and getting myself out of the water. My concern was getting her out of the water. We don't know. I can't conclude on that. What I do know is it's very interesting that he is very focused on getting her out of the water. He then says he held her in front, or I held her in front of me. I held her in front of me is interesting there. Again, like I cannot picture that one. I held her in front of me. She wasn't out the water, so again we've got her.
But why wouldn't he pick it up, put her safely on the ground, away from the water? This is something a lot of people have talking about. I know he was being sick, but why at that moment he was being sick? So basically what he's trying to do is distance himself from, he did know where she went after what happened. I think he does know. I really do think he does know. This is what makes me think there may be someone else involved in this.
In the water, not him. She wasn't out of the water. She was knee deep and walking at an angle out of the water. Now that's a really strange one. I do not know why that is needed, why the angle that was there is mentioned. It's just not necessary. She was knee deep and walking out the water would just let us know what was happening. However, angle has been brought in for some reason, and I don't know what that means. That was she walking at an angle away from him, or was she bent over and that's the angle that he means? He doesn't say, but she was walking out of the water
Some
at
of
an
it
angle,
doesn't make
and he
sense
doesn't
what he's
need
saying.
to say it at an angle, but he wants to say it. He feels the need to tell us that she was walking at an angle, so why did he add that angle in? He then goes on to say, the last time I saw her, I asked if she was okay. Again, why is he telling her that he asked if she was okay? Is this to prove?
Especially if she was still in the water at that time as well. It just doesn't make sense. It's weird. It's really, really strange. Very, very strange.
Some interaction happened. You'll notice that while they kissed and they talked earlier, this time I asked if she was okay. Again, is this a bit of a resume statement? Look at what a great guy I am. I was checking up on her and making sure that she was okay.
Too perfect.
Next bit worries me. The next bit worries me. He says, I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water I had swallowed. Well, if he didn't hear it, how does he know there was a reply? I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water I had swallowed. I'm sorry, but that can't be true. I didn't hear if she replied because I started vomiting. That would be authentic words, but I didn't hear her reply because I started vomiting all the water I swallowed. It doesn't hang together, just like a lot of this doesn't hang together. Also, I don't want to be overly graphic, but if you are going to vomit, asking if someone is okay just before you do it doesn't really happen in life, does it? Look, it could happen. I get there's a possibility it could happen, but it's not really smooth, is it? It's not like it's what really happens when you know you're going to vomit and you wouldn't.
He's too graphic. It's like he's overthought what is going to stay in his statement rather than it sort of coming out naturally from him.
Hear something because you're vomiting, you wouldn't be asking a question and checking up on someone just before that. In general, you'd be concerned with yourself because you are about to vomit. So lots of this guy's story doesn't hang together. Then he says, after vomiting, I looked around and didn't see anyone. Anyone. Not I didn't see her. It's I didn't see anyone. Now remember I said he called out for help. Were there other people around that he's really not mentioning here, that he's hiding in the back of this statement? Or was he expecting other people to be around and they weren't around? We don't know. But what he doesn't say is I looked around and didn't see her. It's I didn't see anyone. Again, just something else in this statement that makes me think there is more going on here than being said. I thought she had grabbed her things and left. So we have the word grabbed again. That's the second time that word has come up. Yeah. And bear in mind, she was walking at an angle out of the water and she was tired from swimming and he had to haul her out, etc., etc. Would grabbed be the word you used? Grabbed? That sounds quite fast. That sounds quite...
So he didn't see where she went, which, you know, if I saved someone in water that was in trouble, I wouldn't leave them until help arrived. Yes, he didn't have his phone with him, which I thought was kind of strange. Maybe he decided because he was going to go for a swim, leave it in the room because he didn't think he was there that long. I could understand that. But I thought it was weird that he fell asleep on a nearby chair because he felt messed up and stuff. But it's just weird. It is strange, and I think there's a lot more to this case than I first thought. Listen to this breakdown.
Active for someone who's had to be pulled out of the sea, who's had to have some lifeguard type actions taken on her because she is tired of swimming, just grabbed her things and left after vomiting. Again, I'm not sure that is realistic. And we've got one of Joshua's favourite things going on here. He says, then I woke up because of the sun and because mosquitoes were biting me. However, once more, he doesn't tell us he fell asleep. So he doesn't say, I lay down on the beach and went to sleep. It's like, then I woke up because of the sun and because the mosquitoes were biting me. We've got a definite jump in time here, and jumps in time and stories from deceptive people can be hiding all sorts of things or excusing away all sorts of things. But he doesn't say how he fell asleep. He doesn't even say he was tired or really out of it or anything like that. It's just, then I woke up because of the sun and because the mosquitoes were biting me. He then says, I went to my friend's room to get my phone and then went back to my room to sleep. So I've got something to notice there, which is I went to my friend's room to get my phone and then always suggests a jump in time and storytelling. Now, quite often we'll use and then for brevity when we're cutting stuff down, but in deceptive stories we can use and then to hide things. So what was the interaction between his friend and himself? There, did they have a discussion about anything, and he doesn't want to talk about that discussion, so he's using and then to jump over that.
Jump ahead.
I went back to my room to sleep. Now, why the mention of this friend and why the mention of getting my phone? This doesn't need to be said unless you really want us to know that your phone was in your friend's room. That's why you would mention that. So, that's the statement from Joshua. Lots and lots and lots, in such a short statement, lots to notice. The question is, can I tell from this statement what really happened to Sudishka? I can have a sort of guess at that. That water being mentioned a lot suggests to me that water was involved in what happened. I do have some questions about words like grabbed and pulled though, and I do think that Joshua is hiding things inside his story. So while there's a lot of it that reassures me, like the fact this is all in the past tense, and like the fact that the composition of the story is quite good, he's hiding things inside that story, and certain aspects of the way he tells that don't add up there. My best guess is she got in trouble, not him. Not through his fault. I don't know if it was through his fault or not, but my best guess is that he knows she got in trouble in the water and he couldn't save her. He was worried that he would get blamed for it. Listen, when people this age are being talking, sometimes I will find out that one of the reasons they're jumping over things is there was drugs or drink or something like that they don't want to tell people they were using involved. So potentially that's what's happening. But he was worried he'd get blamed or something that he was using would be found out, and he didn't report it. Which is why he has to tell us that he didn't have his phone, so he couldn't report it at the time. I think that's what's going on there. That's my best guess. She got in trouble in the water. He saw it but could not save her. He's worried that he would get blamed, or maybe he didn't think it was as serious. Maybe he took it as a joke or something like that, and he didn't report it. That is my best guess at what has gone on there. Does it make him guilty of something or suspicious? I don't know. That's for someone else to judge. What do you think? Do let me know on the socials. If you can find all of those linked at neveratruerword.com, or you can let me know in the comments here if they are available on your platform. And neveratruerword.com is another place to go to find a whole lot more analysis of the words people use and upskilling yourself to detect the truth, to detect deception, and to detect motivation inside someone's words. Never.
That was brilliant. That was from Never a True Word. A True Word. Do go and subscribe to him. I thought it was a brilliant video. I don't think Joshua killed Sudisha. I don't think so. But I think he does know what happened to her. Let me know what you think, because like I said, some of this statement and the breakdown was absolutely brilliant by this man. And sometimes when you look back over cases like this and you have time to think about what happened, I think there's more to this case than meets the eye. Will we get the truth? It may take some time, but I think we might. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Streamline Entertainment, and Never a True Word as well. I thought this was a brilliant breakdown. Thank you very much. Take care, people. Bye.